Okay, well, let's look at our lesson tonight, and here is our schedule. So you can see there a list of some subjects we're going to be talking about over the next quarter. And the idea is that we face situations, we're going to talk about some of those in a minute, and how do we deal with those situations? What do we do? But this idea of overcoming evil with good is actually found over in Romans 12. Let's just turn over there for a couple of minutes to start with. And I don't know that we'll come back to this very often, but it's really where the thought comes from. And verse 17, this is at the end of a long list of things that Paul says in chapter 12, after he says, okay, here's how you put the gospel to work in your lives, here's how you're transformed. And one of those ways is by doing a lot of good things. And so at the close of those, at verse 17, he writes, repay no one evil for evil, but give thought to do what is honorable in the sight of all. So when he says repay no one evil for evil, what's the thought there? Why would he say that? Yeah, two wrongs don't make a right, George says. That's exactly correct. And so evil is around us, and when someone does evil, it's very easy to do evil back, isn't it? Retribution. And that's what this context is describing. So he goes on to say, right in verse 18, if possible, so far as it depends on you, live peaceably with all. So as much as you're able to, be at peace with those around you. So, verse 19, beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God, for it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. For by so doing, you will heap burning coals on his head. So it's real easy to read through all of that. It's a lot more difficult to practice that, isn't it? You know, it sounds good, it makes sense, but actually putting it into practice is where the rubber meets the road. So the last verse, do not overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. We're often tempted to think that the way to overcome evil is to maybe treat somebody like they've treated us, and that's not the solution, is it? All right, so having said those things and looking at these subjects, what I want to do to start with, I think I said on your sheet there, we've got some things here. It's an exercise. And I'll just preface this by saying, no trick questions here. We're not trying to get anybody, gotcha type thing. This is agree or disagree. But the reason we're going through these statements is they relate as we go through all of them to the kinds of subjects we'll be discussing. So we'll actually be mentioning some of these things as we study through. And so this is just an initial exercise to get us thinking in that way, and really to just share our thoughts together as to what you think would be right or wrong. Agree or disagree really is what we're saying. So let's start at the top of the list there. It is a sin to be depressed. Would you agree or disagree? Okay, I hear a lot of agrees. Okay, something that comes upon you, you're not necessarily just depressed, Virginia says. Okay, anybody want to add a thought? Yeah, Ed? Okay. Okay. So Ed's thought is, and I'm repeating this in part for the folks listening on the live stream because they can't always pick up the comments. So depression is a disease, and that's different from being anxious. Somebody want to add to that thought? Yes. Okay. All right. Sin is a transgression of the law. Lisa, is that right? Yes, Lisa says. Okay, good. Okay. All right. So we all experience different kinds of feelings, don't we? Ian. Okay. 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 Now, I can't repeat all of that, but I'll try. I'll try to summarize it. This is kind of like translating. Somebody talks for 5 minutes and you give about 20 seconds. No. So he says it's like anger, and it depends on what you do with it. And he mentions Job, I think. Was that right? And Job had to deal with a situation. What did he do? And again, we'll be looking at some examples. Anybody else want to make a comment? Yes, Denise? Okay. Okay. So it's certainly a feeling that we experience, that people experience. You mentioned mental health. All right. So all those things go into it. I think we hear a lot about this today, and it is a problem. And so that's one of the reasons we're going to talk about it. Yes. Yes. Okay. 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 All right. Okay. So Elijah had a challenge, didn't he? He went to the mountaintop, as we say, and then he went to another mountain, but that wasn't quite the positive thing that the first occasion was. So we're actually going to look at him when we come to that. Yeah. Sandy? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. 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 So maybe it's Sandy's thought is it's a little simplistic to just say it's this or that, and maybe the chemical balance enters into it. What do we do when we're faced with it? So I think we've not necessarily touched a nerve, but I think we're all aware of this, and that's a good reason to study it, isn't it? Just to look to the Bible. Let's go to a second thought here. Often when we are discouraged, the best thing to do is to take some time off just to do something for ourselves. How would you respond? Agree or disagree? Okay, Sandy says usually that's not going to do it. Okay. Okay, depends on the individual. Okay. Okay, so maybe the difference between sorting it out yourself or having others involved in helping you out might be a thought. Yeah, Michael? Yeah. Okay.
delve into.
Okay.
So there are times when the solution may be different depending upon what side of us
Okay.
is discouraged.
So what's the nature of the discouragement? Are we talking about spiritually? Are we talking work related? Is there a connection between the two? Are they separated? That's another consideration. Yes. Okay. 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 So depending on how we define doing something for ourselves, that might temper our reaction to that statement. Fair enough. Someone's depression may be so severe that he's not responsible for his behavior. I think this is the last one on this subject, but probably drilling a little bit more into this. Any reaction to that? Okay, some agreement. Okay, okay, so, okay. Yeah, Ed?
So the courts recognize that depression is a mental illness, chemical imbalance, and sometimes people will commit criminal acts as a result of their depression, and they're not treated as criminals, it's sent to mental therapy, even prescribed some medications quite often to balance that behavior.
Okay. So there's a recognition maybe in our judicial system for influences some of those things, Ian? Okay. Okay. Okay, so self-control enters into it, and certainly we're going to talk about that some as we go along. Well, let's go on. The good discussion, all of these thoughts. A strong Christian can overcome frequent contacts with evil influences. Okay, so Sandy says, why put yourself out there? Okay. Anybody else want to comment? Yeah, Juan? Yeah, okay. Bible talks about fleeing immorality. Exactly right. Okay, good. Okay, yoked together with unbelievers. 2 Corinthians 6 talks about that principle. All right, some things related to that. Yeah, Michael? Okay. Yeah, in fact, are we exposed to the world in our lives? We are. Yeah, now to what degree and how much can we control that? That's part of the question. Yeah, Sylvia? Okay. We can't run off to a convent and just kind of cloister ourselves away from everything. So there's going to be some contact. And so what can we do? Can we do anything? Those are some of the questions that arise. Yeah, Derek? Okay, not conform, but transform. That's Romans 12, verses 1 and 2. Good. Number 5. The best way to deal with bad habits is to find substitute activities. Okay? That is a way to deal with it. That's okay. Okay, depends on what the activity is. I'm certain we would feel like that. Not just any substitute activity for sure. Okay, any other thoughts about that? Okay. Okay. So if we're staying close with God, we're praying, we're seeking His help, that's certainly going to be helpful to us, isn't it? Yeah, okay, it certainly is. All right, let's go to the next one. We sometimes have doubts because we do not understand things in our lives. Pretty general, isn't it? Okay, so maybe, okay. So things working out might be part of that doubt. We're not sure. And so that might be something we don't understand, don't know. Maybe that's. Okay, okay. All right, doubts about self versus doubts about God. All right, anybody else? Yeah, Michael. Okay, all right. All right, Matthew 6. No reason to worry if we have that trust and faith in God. Anybody else? Okay. Agree. Okay, that's good. That's an answer. Okay. Okay, David. Yeah, look at the Psalms. Look at the Psalms. Yeah. Do the psalmists ever express doubt? David included. I think they do. Okay. We should never be angry because it's a sign of weak faith. No? I've got a no. Do I hear another no? Disagree? Okay. Ed? Okay. Righteous anger, which would kind of qualify what we're saying there about that one. Anger if. Oh, Jesus had anger. Okay. Okay. Very good. Jesus was angry on occasion. I think it's Mark 6 for sure. He had indignation, I think it says. All right, number 9, it is wrong to let our temper cause us to lose control of ourselves. Okay, we got a consensus on that one. I think most folks would agree. Okay, that was an easy one. One good way to deal with our anger is to do something that will keep us from thinking about what made us angry. Easier said than done. Okay. Any other thoughts? Is that a good strategy? Okay. So maybe you're not really addressing what it is that made you angry if you take this step. All right. Ed? Oh, sorry. Did you have a thought, Ed? Okay. Well, let's do number 11. When people ridicule us, it is usually because we are doing something wrong. Okay. I think we all would disagree with that. We would agree that that's disagree. Okay. I'm not even going to ask why you said that. Okay, number 12. People often ridicule things they do not understand. Okay. Number 13. Ridicule is an effective way of helping some people to see the truth. Okay. Hey, we're on a streak here. I think 2 or 3 that we all agreed. Number 14. Jealousy is a sign of weakness in our character. Anybody? Okay. I disagree? Okay. Okay. All right. So disagree. Some agree. Other thoughts? Okay. So jealousy, Deneen says, not trusting, not, what was the second one? Forgiving. Yeah, that's the word you had. Okay. All right. Yeah, Ian. Okay. Okay. So maybe part of the answer lies in what are we being jealous about? Good thought. Okay, number 16. It's much easier to be a faithful Christian if we never have to face failure. How many yeses? How many no's? Okay. The no's took it here. Yeah, okay, so that's, what's that? Okay, life full of failures, Derek says. Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay. Okay. So, okay. Yeah. Sometimes that test of failing is some kind of indicator to us of where our faith lies. Okay. Not tested beyond what we're able to bear. Good. All right, 17. When our plans fail, it is always a sign that we have sinned. No? Okay. All right. So, not necessarily, right? There is nothing we have or do for which we can take all the credit. Okay? I think we're pretty much agreed on that one. Everyone can profit by having more pride in themselves. Did he really just say that? Okay. That seems to be counter to what we understand from the Bible. Number 20, the ideal Christian never worries about anything. Okay. Okay, so Sandy says disagree based on Paul's reaction to situations. Ian? Okay. Okay. So maybe that's one of the reasons why we pray. Ed? Okay. So we might take exception to the ideal Christian there. All right, three more. 21. When two Christians disagree, one of them is sinning. I think. Oh, right. Philippians. Right. He didn't. Euodia and Syntyche in Philippians 4, he says, help them get together, but he doesn't fault one or the other. Okay. Yeah, Derek? Yeah, disagreement over John Mark, end of Acts 15, going on the second journey. Right. Okay. And he was needed later. Good. All right, 22. When a Christian disagrees with another brother over a spiritual matter, he should reprove him until they come to agreement on the truth. So I guess we're not of that. That's a disagree, right? So, and that raises the question, what do we do when there is disagreement? And that's why we'll be spending some time talking about that. And finally, when a Christian feels he has been wronged by a brother, I don't remember what that was. Give me about 1 second here. I think I can find it. What's the mystery last line here? Yeah, fill in the blank. There you go. All right. All right, discuss in the church. Oh, this is simple. He should discuss it with him. Okay, what would you say to that? Sounds like a good advice? Okay. All right, so that's a long list of things there, but that kind of gives you a preview of situations we'll be talking about and some of the things that we kind of go through in our minds when we're trying to decide this or that. So let's end this evening, about 10 minutes here, a little less, with foundation principles. And I'll let you fill them in as we go here. Number one, you probably recognize Ecclesiastes. We just finished studying that, but I'm just going to read through these really quick. It'd be good to have somebody else read, but it's quicker this way. So Ecclesiastes 12, the end of the matter all has been heard. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man, for God will bring every deed into judgment with every secret thing, whether good or evil. Similarly, Matthew 12:36, I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak, for by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. And then 2 Corinthians 5:10, for we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may receive what is due for what he has done in the body, whether good or evil. What do all three of those seem to have in common? Anything that stands out? Everybody will be judged by our deeds, suggesting what? We'll be judged by our deeds, meaning we are what? Accountable. Yeah, that's the $64,000 word there. I am accountable for every action I take. Do you think those passages bear that out? Our words and what we do with our life, etc. Okay, number two, 2 Peter 4, we're going to read a few verses there. For if God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to chains of gloomy darkness to be kept until the judgment, if he did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a herald of righteousness with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly, and then we'll jump to verse 9, but there are similar examples in there, then the Lord knows how to rescue the godly from trials and to keep the unrighteous under punishment until the day of judgment. Sounds a little bit like the ones we just looked at. Somebody mentioned this one earlier. Therefore, let anyone who thinks that he stands take heed lest he fall. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape that you may be able to endure it. All right? And then we're going to read the first and the last part of Romans 8. What then shall we say to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things? And then you drop down to 38. For I am sure that neither death nor life, nor angels nor rulers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor powers, nor height, nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God in Christ Jesus our Lord. So those probably seem a little bit like the first one. You see anything different there that could be a foundation principle? You know, we're basing our thoughts and our conclusions. Okay? How about these? It is possible for me to do right in every situation. And now we're not doing agree or disagree. This is, you know, based on those. I mean, that's the foundation principle. No situation can make me do wrong, which is just kind of the converse of the other. All right? All right, number 3, 2 Corinthians 9:8. And God is able to make all grace abound to you, so that having all sufficiency in all things at all times, you may abound in every good work. Keep your life free from love of money and be content with what you have, for he has said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. Not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned on whatever situation I am in whatever situation I am to be content. I know how to be brought low, and I know how to abound. In any and every circumstance, I have learned the secret of facing plenty and hunger, abundance and need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me. I think I just hit the, yeah. And then 1 Timothy 6, but godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we cannot take anything out of the world, but if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. All right. Any common thread through those things? Dependence on God, contentment. Okay, I think we're on the right track. It's possible for me to be content in any situation. You think those passages bear that out? All right. 4, Psalm 139, we know this one. O Lord, you've searched me and known me. You know when I sit down, when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. And at the very end of the psalm, I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. 1 John 5:3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome. 1 Timothy 4:8, for while bodily training is of some value, godliness is of value in every way, as it holds promise for the present life and also for the life to come. So what would you say there? Okay, God, what was the second part? God. Oh, godliness in all situations, okay. And there's an element in this, even if I don't fully understand why. His commands are best for me. They're not burdensome. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Which suggests I'm going to do his commands even if I don't fully understand everything about the situation. And then finally, Luke 16:13 says, Jesus, no servant can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one, love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. 1 Corinthians 9:24, do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises, there's our word, self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. And finally, 1 Kings 18:21, we mentioned Elijah. And Elijah came to all the people and said, how long will you falter between 2 opinions? I think the language there is almost like you're kind of dancing between one and the other. Falter. You can't decide. If the Lord is God, follow him, but if Baal, follow him. But the people answered him not a word. Okay, what would you say about that one? Any idea what this one is? What's that? Choose wisely. Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. Good. Choose wisely. And because what what happens with our choices? What difference do they make? Our choices ultimately become what? Matter of life and death. They're who we are, right? So this one is my life should and can only be directed toward a single goal. So that's a little bit different, but it's the idea is that I'm headed one direction or the other. There's not some nebulous middle there. So we're going one way or the other. So here they are. I should have just put them all up there like this. Okay, if you didn't get one of them, I'll leave that there. So we're not necessarily going to come back to these, although we may cite them as we go through some of the lessons. But this is kind of the basis for, okay, how are we going to decide what to do? And in any given situation, what should we do? We're going to look at Bible examples. So next time, discouragement, and we've got, I think, 9 different examples. So each one of those might, some are more involved than others, but read through them and kind of answer the question there, and we'll discuss next time. Rick is going to take the class for the next couple of sessions, and so we'll talk about what do we do when we get discouraged. And I hope this will be profitable. And let me add, I put it on the first page, Marty Broadwell is a good friend of mine, ours up in Atlanta, and a great Bible teacher, great mind, and applies it toward doing God's will. And this is his material, and I've used it before, and I'll keep using it because it's excellent material. But he's the one that developed the thoughts. So I'm giving him credit for what he did. Okay, thank you for everything this evening, and we'll stop there, go on next week.